roundabout, take the first exit onto Burnham Lane.
Ivanka Trump says she is heartbroken over the death of her mother, Ivana Trump, who's died at the age of 73. The former wife of Donald Trump was found at her home in New York. In the city, the FTSE 100 will reopen at 70.39 after closing down 116 points yesterday. The pound buys $1.18 and €1.18. The weather, cloud and outbreaks of showery rain moving southeastwards across central parts of the UK, turning brighter in the northwest later. Warm sunshine across the south and southwest, a high of 27 Celsius. From Global's newsroom, for LBC, I'm Holly Harris.
Oh, come on. Ready? Sure you've packed everything in there? Yes, Mum. Have you packed? I've got my Sultan deodorant.
In a quarter of a mile, turn right onto Bath Road, A4.
Fancy flight? In 4 hours. 3 days and 2 weeks on Friday.
At Boots, we're packed with unmissable deals on all your holiday essentials. So this year, summer better be ready. Shop in store and online today. Boots, with you for life. Selected stores, subject to availability.
Turn right onto Bath Road, A4.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Good morning, 4 minutes after 7 on Friday, July the 15th. The uncivil civil war with the Conservative Party continues. A bit of a boost for Liz Truss, it has to be said. Suella Braverman, as you heard on the LBC News Bulletin, now swinging in with support. We'll give you the full background to that. And here from Conservative heavy hitter Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, his latest take on where that leaves the race to be the leader of the party. And of course our Prime Minister. There are other stories around. We will pick up on the problems in the airport between the massive airline Emirates and Heathrow. We'll give you a full report on that. Also a report on events in a court in London yesterday involving Hollywood giant Kevin Spacey. Here's Fox News with the news.
From the news station, this is a Fox 4 News Alert.
New this morning, Oscar-winning actor Kevin Spacey has pleaded not guilty to sexual assault charges in London.
Question. With the tons, and you will be shocked when we tell you how much, with the tons of sewage that is discharged into rivers up and down the land, including the Thames, the Mersey and other great rivers, the Severn as well, do you still drink tap water? A disturbing report that suggests perhaps you shouldn't, and even goes as far as to posit the idea that water company bosses should be jailed because of the level of pollution. And get ready for a hot weekend. Now, I'm not going to go the way of other broadcasters that make it sound like there's a plague of locusts or the Nazis are about to invade, but we do need to be aware that it is going to be a hot one.
Continue on Bath Road for 3/4 of a mile.
Cobra meeting. Whether we need a Cobra meeting for this, I'm not really certain. What we can expect.
We all have to take precautions to make sure that we can cope, but critically look out for vulnerable groups, the very young and the elderly, who will need to be watched over by their communities and their neighbours in the days to come.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
So I'm just going to pause for a minute. A Cobra meeting because it's going to get hot. Look, I know I'm the product of a generation who fought a war. My dad literally went to war for this country, and my mother was a copper in Kent as well. But that generation, if you told my parents' generation we are going to have a Cobra meeting because it's going to get hot, look, perhaps that's the way. It's like when you're driving along motorways now and the gantry signs, be sure you have a brake. What's the next thing? Have you got your vest on? Where will it end? We might look at that later. I find it extraordinary. I suppose it is the way the world is going. Anyway, the way the Conservative Party is going is now we have a famous five, fabulous five, whatever. I can think of another word. Flipping five. Should we say that? Let's hear about the latest shenanigans, where we find ourselves, and how it plays out over the course of today. LBC's political editor, Theo Usherwood. Theo, good morning.
I was going to say the final five. Rishi Sunak is still top of the charts with MPs recording 101 votes in yesterday's second round. Penny Mordaunt a strong second with 83. Meanwhile, Liz Truss is trailing third, only managing 64. But there is some good news I'll come on to for her. Yep. Her pitch: she is the continuity candidate, determined to deliver on Boris Johnson's agenda.
I'm a loyal person. I'm loyal to Boris Johnson. I supported our Prime Minister's aspirations, and I want to deliver the promise of the 2019 manifesto. And what we need to do now is deliver, deliver, deliver. And I am the person in this race with the record.
In 200 yards, at Huntercombe roundabout, take the first exit onto Huntercombe Spur heading to M4, London.
Yeah, it's just she is the Foreign Secretary. Still in the race, but only just is Tom Tugendhat. He'll be able to take part in the TV debates over the weekend, but he knows that barring any Nick Clegg-style blows, he's down and out in this contest. And as he admitted yesterday, his bigger rivals are now starting to woo him and his supporters ahead of the crunch vote.
Exit the roundabout onto Huntercombe Spur.
I feel like a prom queen. I'll leave it there.
Army officer turned prom queen wants to sure that will go down well with the membership. It was, of course, the Attorney General Suella Braverman who lost out last night, reporting only 27 votes, and in last place dropped out.
Keep left at the fork.
To Liz Truss's campaign, and in a sign that the right of the party is prepared to unite behind one candidate, she said she would be backing the Foreign Secretary and urged her...
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
Close consideration of all of the candidates, I've made the decision to support Liz Truss in her attempt to win the contest and become the leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I've been very impressed with the way Liz has conducted a positive campaign, but on policy terms, I think she's the strong guardian of Brexit promises.
Just before I let you go, Theo, let's talk a little bit about the weekend. And indeed, coming back, we touched on this before, because you will recall in the David Davis row, Mr. Cameron was really nowhere to be seen, and then a bit almost Badenoch, almost a bit Cameron-esque is coming.
Continue on M4 for 11 miles.
For these guys and women to hang on in.
It is, and I should have mentioned coming in my report, Nick, because her standing with 49 votes last night is absolutely crucial. She's allied, of course, with Michael Gove. If she drops out, where do those votes go? Because potentially, if she goes with Liz Truss, she could lock out Penny Mordaunt from the contest. Her and Michael Gove have become very powerful in this contest very quickly. It'll be absolutely crucial to see where those votes go, if indeed she loses out.
Theo Archfield reporting. Theo, I might see you again during the course of the show. Right, let's go to a prominent Conservative and get his take on matters and indeed where he thinks his support will go. I speak of the former leader of the party and Cabinet Minister and Conservative MP, of course, Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, who was seen at Liz Truss's launch yesterday. So from that, I'm going to deduce that Sir Ian supports Liz Truss. Why is that, Sir Ian? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Nick. Yes, I'm supporting Liz now because I think she is the one whose record in government has been the one that she's done the most to deliver the benefits of Brexit, whether it's in trade deals with Australia and many others, or the getting us back into the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which are huge potential benefits for us and also strategically. But also when she's been in the Foreign Office, she's led with the Defence Secretary on Ukraine, on the Russian invasion, and also she's one that's called out the threats on China. But importantly, she's leading on the protocol in Northern Ireland to help deliver the Northern Ireland back into the UK, and safeguarding the Good Friday Agreement has been very tough with the European Union over negotiations. So I think her record in government is one where she, amongst anybody else, has actually delivered. And I listen, at the end of the day, I'll be happy with whoever the members decide to choose, as I'm a Conservative and everybody else is Conservative candidates list. But I do think to get there, we do need to know everything about everybody. There can be no lost areas. We need to know, what did you achieve? After all, every one of these people has been in government for 2.5 years. So the question really is, in 2.5 years with the power, what did you do to deliver the benefits of Brexit to a country that chose to leave the European Union? Otherwise, there was no point in leaving. And that's a critical test for me. And so far, I've heard and seen the most from Liz Truss in terms of what she's actually delivered.
You mentioned Brexit, Sir Ian. The former Brexit Minister, Lord Frost, has, quotes, grave reservations about one of the key contesters opposing Liz Truss, which is Penny Mordaunt. Do you share those concerns?
Well, I haven't worked, to be fair, with Penny Mordaunt, so I have no inside information about how she works or not. And it's always interesting, therefore, to hear from those that have worked with individual candidates. A lot of those have worked with Rishi, with Liz Truss, and with others. They've also spoken out about what they wrote about each of those individuals. But I think the important thing is for that question to be answered for everybody. What have you done? How have you managed to benefit the UK in terms of the Brexit deal? What did you actually do to make Britain a better place and to make sure that the UK is safe? These are critical questions that must be asked, because we can't just elect somebody because for a short period of time they may look better than others. What we're actually electing is not, in a way, a popularity contest. We're electing somebody who has to govern for probably 2 years with a huge set of crises, the cost of living crisis, where many of them, Elizabeth, are talking about getting the burden of tax down on VAT, on petrol costs, on people's incomes, which is important now. These are big debates. Plus, we have a war going on in Europe for the first time since the Second World War, in that extent, and we need people who have gravitas and strength and determination to deal with this, and you simply don't abandon your posts in time of war.
Lastly, noting the 3 or 4 matters you raised first there, Sir Ian, all being fiscal matters, wouldn't that speak to Rishi Sunak then, getting the top job?
Well, Rishi Sunak has been Chancellor. I have respect for him, obviously, but I think the one that's led the charge on this, which is defining what the problem is. Yes, we have a problem with inflation. That's causing a spiral in costs. However, the bigger problem that will come like the shadow behind inflation is essentially the growth in the economy. If we don't keep growth going in the economy, we'll end up in stagflation. And right now, we have a very high tax base as well as rising interest rates. We can't do both. What we have to do is get that high tax burden down, particularly on what I call the squeezed middle, those who are on not very high salaries. They're on the basic rate of income tax for the most part. They're really feeling this. Now, we've supported those who are the poorest, but now we need to really turn our attention to getting the cost down on those who struggle to drive to work and do the right thing. We support them. So, Liz has actually been very clear about her views. Get that burden down, but get it down now. I think Rishi Sunak's talking about doing it later, so my answer is, well, do it now, because now is where people live their lives, not sometime in the future.
Grateful for your time. Thank you. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, former leader of the party and cabinet minister and Conservative MP. Listening to that Charlie Rowley, who was a special advisor to Prime Minister Theresa May, and to Michael Gove as recently, of course, as Mr. Gove moved from his post, and he joins me now. Charlie, you can read the runes of the Conservative Party as well as any, really. What do they need to do? What do any of them need to do over the debates this weekend? Who really needs to start being seen?
Well, good morning, Nick, and I think you're absolutely right that as we approach the TV debates that are going to take place, all of the candidates are going to come under much more tougher scrutiny than what they've ever come under previously. I think the conversation will dominate around the economy, just as you were talking about there with Ian. But everybody is going to set out their honest approach to how they will deal with the difficult decisions, how they're going to manage the economic balance of the country over the next 2 years, because the reality is things are going to be difficult, and I think the candidates that are upfront about that, that can talk their whole truth to their Conservative MP colleagues and the membership will probably fare a bit better.
Can I be fairly brutal with you, Charlie? The way it's looking at the moment, barring what happened over the weekend, Mr. Tugendhat, Tom Tugendhat, would seem to be close to the relegation zone. If that takes place, where do his votes go?
I love Tom. I love all candidates. As someone that has recently been added to the government unemployment statistics, I would say that. But I think Tom is good. But I think it is probably the case that Tom. Sadly he lost 5 votes at the last round. I suspect his votes will be a split, probably between Penny Mordaunt and some may go across to Kemi Badenoch. Who is doing a
phenomenal
campaign.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. Yeah. Does Kemi Badenoch become the king or queen maker then, Charlie?
Potentially so. And I think if you just look at Kemi's campaign, she is straight talking, and her personal story to tell, flipping burgers in McDonald's, all the way to becoming the MP for Saffron Walden. She's picking up people and support that is not just or central to the left, and she has a very, very good team around her, so she's certainly one to watch.
Lastly, Charlie, if, as I think you probably will subscribe, that it will come down to Rishi Sunak versus AN Other, who do you think the AN Other might be? That is the question. I mean, I think if Penny can maintain the momentum that she's got behind her, then I think that would be a real chance for the membership. But I think, it's a Conservative Party leadership race. It is the toughest gig in the world, I think, to win. Who knows what's at play, and whether Liz can attract all of her own supporters and others to get to that final two remains to be seen. But Charlie, thank you. I'm sure you'll be in employment again soon. Charlie Rowley served as Special Advisor to Prime Minister Theresa May. and then to Michael Gove as recently as a couple of weeks ago. A penny for your thoughts. Penny Mordaunt is on the rise. We'll look at that after the 7:15 LBC News headlines read by Holly Harris.
Former Brexit Minister Lord Frost has thrown his support behind Liz Truss in the Tory leadership contest and urged Kemi Badenoch to pull out to unite the pro-Brexit vote. The Ukrainian president's described a missile attack on a city far from the front line in the conflict with Russia as an open act of terrorism. There'll be 2 more rail strikes this summer. The RMT's announced walkouts on the 18th and 20th of August. The weather, showers in central parts, dry and warm in the south, a high of 27 Celsius.
LBC Travel, I'm Anne-Marie Walsh. On the M25 anti-clockwise, it's slow moving towards a broken down bound between junction 25 at Enfield and 24 at Potters Bar. The highway in Shadwell is closed in both directions because of an accident between Dock Street and Cannon Street Road, and Sewerstone Road in Chingford is shut both ways. That's near to Waltham Way for an investigation there. In Belgravia, Eaton Place is closed near to Upper Belgrave Street. That was following a fire in a building yesterday afternoon. The A20 in Lewisham is queuing around Clarendon Rise as there are some temporary traffic lights in place there for water main works. On the tubes, there are severe delays on the Hammersmith and City line this morning, and on the District line westbound from Tower Hill to Ealing Broadway, Richmond and Wimbledon.
LBC.
To celebrate Yorkshire Day, you could visit the Yorkshire Dales, but me, I prefer the Yorkshire Deals. PlusNet Fibre for just $22.99 a month, which comes with their most reliable router ever, the Hub 2. Plus, a massive £75 reward.
In 2 miles, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes.
Search PlusNet Fibre now, wherever you're from. 18-month contract offer ends 3rd of August. CPI plus 3.9% increase each March. New customers only. Reward calculated by email within 2 months. Terms apply.
Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
Dell's Black Friday and July sale is here. Power productivity with a tech refresh now and find special deals on top-rated business laptops and desktops. Plus, get big savings on the latest servers, storage, monitors and more with free delivery and easy financing.
In a quarter of a mile, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes. Exit at junction 3. In a quarter of a mile, at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the 4th exit onto the Parkway, A312. Exit the roundabout onto the parkway. Continue on the parkway for 1 mile.
In a sentence, sorry, so lastly, in a sentence, you feel that close to voting Labour because?
Just because I'm sick of the Tories and the way they treat people.
Safe driving, Chris. I can tell you are driving. Have yourself a good weekend. You will be watching, of course, as it all plays out over the next few weeks or months. Well, not quite. Hang on, what is it? No, it's almost months. Why does it take 2 months to elect a leader of a party? How can it take that long? More calls on that in just a moment. Now, I said earlier that Hollywood giant Kevin Spacey appearing in court at the Old Bailey, pleading not guilty to charges of sexual assault dating back some 17 years. Here with all the details in the studio with me, LBC's Charlotte Lynch. Charlotte.
Nick, the Oscar-winning actor will go on trial in London, accused of sexually assaulting 3 men in the UK 17 years ago. He was greeted by a huge media scrum of journalists and photographers from all over the world as he appeared in person at the Old Bailey, where he entered not guilty pleas to the 5 charges against him. They are 2 counts of sexual assault on a man who's now in his 40s. In March 2000,
In a quarter of a mile of Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit and stay on the Parkway A312.
Penetrative sexual activity without consent, said to have taken place in August 2008 in London, and sexual assault on a man now in his 30s in April 2013 in Gloucestershire. Now, this is said to have happened when he was artistic director of the Old Vic Theatre in London, a role he didn't leave until 2015. Of course, he's most well known for starring roles in American Beauty, The Usual Suspects, and the US political thriller House of Cards. The 62-year-old appeared at the Old Bailey under his full name, Kevin Spacey Fowler. He spoke clearly in the dock as he confirmed his name, address, and date of birth, and he thanked the judge as he was granted unconditional bail until his trial, which has been fixed for the 6th of June.
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
4 weeks.
Continue on A312 for 1.5 miles.
Case, which reporters from around the globe will be following, and they will travel to London to cover.
Charlotte Lynch reporting. Emails coming in on our conversation about the Conservative leadership, then coming to your call. John, the next caller. Kevin in Harlow says, with all the polls showing Penny Mordaunt will win the people's vote, why are the Conservatives trying so hard to make it Rishi versus Liz Truss? If Labour up their game between now and the next elections, the Conservatives could lose. Oh, I see. This is a joke here, this one. We can't afford a penny. We're already in too much debt. That's John. Okay, I see that one. Thank you for that one. Same subject. This is Tim Siddell, or Tim Siddle. We should be going for Kemi Badenoch, an articulate and impressive performance. I think she's a smashing, really, really impressive female MP and campaigner, I should say. Whether she just needs a bit more ministerial experience, we have to wait and see on that. Here we are, another one coming in. This is interesting, another one coming in. This is from Joe. The best of the bunch has to be Kemi Badenoch. Why can't the Conservatives see they've got a real potential jewel in the crown there who will threaten the Labour Party all the way? Okay, let's pick up on some of this. John's in Sherborne. John, I'm going to actually move away from Kemi to Penny Mordaunt. How would that sit with you? Good morning, sir.
It wouldn't. I mean,
right.
Not at all.
I'm a bit annoyed with the arrogance of Suella Braverman, talking about if she has disposable votes. The final vote will come with a membership, and it's not for also runners to decide where the votes go. We'll decide, and at the moment, I haven't seen anything. There have been a few social media postings from various party associations. None of them are conclusive. So I think that Kemi's my woman, and that's it.
Kemi's your woman, and that's it. You know, I don't blame you, having had the pleasure of meeting her on a couple of occasions. She's a ferociously bright woman. She's a tremendously attractive candidate for all the credentials she brings. I hear what you say, John. Thank you. Quick word from you, David in Enfield. David?
Good morning, Nick. Nick, this is all very disappointing. It's like a motorist facing a long and difficult journey, going down to his local garage to buy a new set of high-performance tyres, and all the guy can offer him is a set of worn-out retreads. I think that...
Well, that's nonsense. How the hell is Kemi Badenoch or Tom Tugendhat worn-out retreads? Talk me through the cabinet positions they've held, David.
Can I finish, please?
Well, no. You've decided to... No,
I'm
we'll do
going
it
to talk about...
No, you're going to talk about what I choose. I want to know why two people who've held, one of whom's had no ministerial position, why are they like retreads?
Because what this Conservative government... I'm talking as a traditional Tory.
We're talking about the candidates. You've decided that
Tom Tugendhat, the only person that I can have any hope of supporting would be Tom Tugendhat. And I'll tell you why.
He's a worn-out read, and I'm trying to find out why he's a worn-out read.
He's not a worn-out read.
But you just said you went down to the tyre shop, you've been offered these 5 sets of tyres, and they're all, quotes,
I was going to say the only exception in my mind was Tom Tugendhat, because he's not been sullied by association with Boris Johnson.
How is
and he might